American farmers continue to struggle as the U.S.-China trade war rages on. And for the first time since 2018, China purchased no soybeans from the U.S. in September. According to China's General Administration of Customs, imports from the U.S. fell to zero, while their buying power in Brazil and Argentina has increased. And now American soybean farmers are left with all of that unsold product.
American farms are dying, not from drought, from policy. Government contracts canceled overnight. $40 billion sent to Argentina while Iowa farmers sell cattle to survive. China buying from Brazil instead of Arkansas. Fourth-generation farms going bankrupt. And 70% of these farmers voted for exactly this. They were promised tariffs would bring back jobs, that trade wars were easy wins. Turns out, economics doesn't negotiate. It executes. Soybean fields rotting. Rural hospitals closing. Farmer suicide rates climbing. Billions flowing overseas to competitors. This isn't politics. It's math. Cold, brutal math. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Today we're watching ideology crash into economic reality. Let's get into it.
You see all these farmers on TikTok complaining now about Trump, who voted for Trump? It's funny how people don't care about something until it directly affects them. Countless farmers are on the verge of losing their farms. One guy has a wheat farm. He's already lost $400,000 since Trump's been in office. Another guy has a sweet potato farm, 200 acres. He's already lost $500,000. Farmers in our country are losing their government contracts. The government is reneging on the contracts they already have with these farmers, and these farmers depend on these contracts. The agricultural sector relies on billions of dollars of government assistance for loans, grants, disaster relief, and conservation practices. These programs have been around since FDR. Now, a federal judge already blocked the funding freeze that Trump instilled because it's against the law. But farmers around the country, they're telling us, it's all over social media. They're receiving letters saying the government is just not going to be able to fulfill their contracts. These people are losing everything. They're having to sell their cattle to survive and pay bills. This is only the beginning. We're not even a month in.
Hold on. We need to understand what we're watching. These aren't abstract numbers. Multi-generational operations getting letters that say contract canceled with zero warning. Programs that existed since the 1930s, suddenly frozen. And here's what non-farmers miss. You can't pivot in agriculture. When you've got 200 acres of sweet potatoes in the ground and your buyer backs out, that's it. $500,000 gone. One wheat farmer down $400,000. Another losing his entire operation. Cattle sold off not as strategy, but as desperation. Less than a month in, and farms are already going under. What happens at 6 months? At a year? This is policy hitting the ground. American soil getting carved up and sold off because someone decided contracts don't matter anymore.
This is for y'all MAGA. Y'all MAGA motherfuckers love to say, we are owning the libs. Let's own the libs. So look around. Who's really owning who now, huh? Your farms are folding. Soybean fields are dying. Corporate giants snatching up bankrupt land while small town families lose everything. You owning anything yet, huh, MAGA? Rural hospitals are what? They're shuttered. Ambulance rides cost more than your rent. Healthcare is double, if not triple, and is completely out of reach. Oil prices climb, meat prices break records, groceries drain your paycheck. Try buying a car or a home today. You'll need a miracle, not a mortgage. In the hospital industry, ICE raids cleared the kitchens, and now restaurants can't even find any workers now. So tell me this, MAGA, was it worth it owning the libs, huh? Was it worth bankrupting your farms to own the libs? Was it worth your family losing health care just to own the libs? You're still up here trying to prove a point with fucking slogans. Because right now, America's at fighting each other right now. And all the while y'all sitting up here fighting each other, billionaires are cashing in. You're not owning no damn libs. You're losing your farms, your jobs, your country. And while you're busy cheering for a slogan and you over here fighting someone because of their skin color, someone else is quietly owning you.
Listen to what's being said here. Owning the libs became an entire identity, a reason to vote. But culture war victories don't pay medical bills. Rural hospitals shutting down? That's losing emergency care. Groceries doubling? That's your paycheck not stretching. But the people getting destroyed thought they were winning. Economics doesn't have teams, it has math. And the math shows working-class rural America losing while billionaires consolidate wealth, farms folding, corporate giants buying bankrupt land, healthcare costs tripling, and the anger gets directed at coastal cities, at anyone except the people writing the policies. That's the playbook. Keep people fighting each other over culture while real money flows upward. Who's winning? Not farmers losing land, not families without healthcare. The winners are the ones making bank while everyone fights over scraps. That's not victory. That's getting played.
Truth has no party. Y'all be well.
U.S. ranchers just found out that their government is importing more beef from Argentina. One farmer called it a knife in the back. Another said that we supported him, and now he's selling us out. This will hurt American farmers while doing little to lower beef prices because it's mostly trim used for processed meat. So once again, it is the meat packers, the processors, and the retailers that profit while consumers continue to pay the price. Every time a politician imports cheap beef, it pushes another family farm closer to bankruptcy. So it's important to buy direct and support your local farmers.
I've seen about 15 videos so far of American farmers freaking out over this Argentina deal. And before the election, I remember a lot of us trying to tell all of you that Project 2025 was very much real. And we got told that we were crazy, that we were just stirring the pot, and we were just a bunch of crazy conspiracists. Now look at you. Trump does this deal with Argentina, and now Argentina is selling their soybeans to China. Who used to sell a whole bunch of soybeans to China? The American farmers. How much have they sold this year? None. The Argentina beef deal, what's going to happen to your cattle, my dude? But at least you voted red to own the libs.
The Argentina deal. Let's break this down. American farmers dominated soybean exports to China. That was billions in revenue. Then tariffs hit, relationships fractured, and China said, fine, we'll shop elsewhere. Argentina and Brazil stepped in, took contracts worth billions. Here's what people miss. Once you lose a major customer, you don't win them back. China signed multi-year deals, built infrastructure, moved on. American soybeans sit in storage, rotting, unsold. And now, government sends $40 billion to Argentina, not to struggling American farmers, to their competitor. Then announces plans to import Argentine beef. You're an Iowa rancher. You voted for policies promising to protect American agriculture. Now your government is funding your replacement and importing products that undercut you. That's not market forces. That's economic sabotage dressed as consumer protection. You can't demand America first and celebrate when your government sells you out to foreign competitors. Campaign promises evaporate when they become inconvenient.
So I live in an ultra-conservative MAGA community. I was raised to be ultra-conservative and MAGA, but our community was actually built on cattle ranchers. And yes, every single one of these cattle ranchers in my community have been diehard MAGA. So I want to read the letter that Trump wrote to them. To the cattle ranchers, who I love that I was able to hoodwink for their vote. They are too stupid to understand that the only reason that they could possibly have any success is because I, Donald J. Trump, taxed them and their consumers with the tariffs that I placed on foreign nations. In fact, if it weren't for me, they would have to go back to doing whatever it is that they were doing before the days of cattle ranching. But it would be nice if they understood that. But these cattle ranchers need to get their prices down, because the truth is I never cared about America first or the American farmer. If you don't believe me, just look what I did to the soybean market. I just sent $40 billion to Argentina to influence their elections. So that's why you, the American farmer, cannot have health care. And to the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, I read your response about how you cannot stand behind me. Well, I warned you, all you had to do was vote for me this one time, and that would be it. So thank you.
American farmers are watching their livelihood collapse and still cheering for the guy telling us to buy beef from somewhere else. Let's talk psychology. He's not appealing to self-interest. He's triggering a trauma bond, the same pattern where people cling tighter the more they're devalued. It's the illusion of belonging after betrayal. He's mastered identity fusion, convincing followers that loyalty to him is loyalty to self or country. So even when the policies hurt them, their brain registers defiance as self-harm. He doesn't need to win every argument. He just needs to keep the bond alive. That's why you'll see people lose their farms and say, "Thank you, sir." Because in this kind of conditioning, pain feels like proof of faith.
We need to talk about psychology, because this isn't rational anymore. Trauma bonding. It happens in abusive relationships, cults, and political movements. It's when someone harms you, but you defend them anyway, because leaving feels like betraying yourself. When farmers lose their land and still express gratitude toward the policies that destroyed them, that's conditioning. The appeal isn't to self-interest, it's to belonging, to identity. And here's the dangerous part. The more pain people experience, the harder they double down. Because admitting you were wrong means admitting you sacrificed everything for nothing. So they rationalize, redirect blame. It's China's fault. It's the bureaucrats. Anything to avoid the obvious truth. This is why facts don't work. Why economic data doesn't change minds. This stopped being about facts. It's about identity. Breaking free requires admitting you were conned, that your loyalty was weaponized against your own interests. Most people won't do that until they hit rock bottom. Some are getting there. Many never will. That's the real tragedy.
I understand that you appear to be MAGA and reading comprehension lacks in the cult. I get that. But she never once said that she didn't care about farmers. You misunderstood. So let me try to help. We don't care if you are against us protesting. We are still going to protest. Because if you don't care about all of the bullshit that's going on in this country, you should just say that with your full chest. Outright state that you are okay with all of the atrocities happening, with people filing bankruptcy and everything that's going on. You should say that with your full chest. We're not going to care about you being a shitty person while we fight for democracy.
So let me get this straight. You're a soybean farmer in the United States where Americans do not buy soybeans. So you raise soybeans and you sell exclusively to China. So you think it's a good idea to vote for a man who openly says he's starting a trade war with China and putting tariffs on them, to the point, and then he does this to the point to where you can't sell your soybeans, and now you're going to be broke, and you want the government to bail you out. No. See, if I make a bad business decision, I lose my job. Okay? So I think this is a natural selection situation. And I just think things should just happen as they do.
Let's address the uncomfortable truth. If you're a soybean farmer who exclusively sells to China, and you vote for policies that start a trade war with China, what did you expect? This wasn't a surprise. Economists predicted it. Trade experts warned about it. You cannot start a conflict with your primary customer and expect them to keep buying. And now there's calls for bailouts? After consciously supporting policies that killed your own market? Farming is brutal. Weather, pests, price fluctuations. So much is beyond your control. But voting? That's a choice. When that outcome arrives exactly as predicted, you don't get to act blindsided. This isn't cruelty, it's accountability. Poor business decisions lead to business failure. That's the system that gets defended every day until it affects you personally. Want government intervention? Safety nets? Support those policies consistently. But you can't spend years screaming about handouts, then demand emergency funding when your choices backfire. Pick a philosophy and stick with it.
All right, well, it wasn't enough to screw over farmers. It wasn't enough. Now Donnie is screwing over cattle ranchers. Look at this, look at this. Not only did he give $40 billion to Argentina and not a penny to farmers, not only that, now he wants you and me and people in the US to buy beef from Argentina. I can't make this up. I cannot make this up. If you did not know, between farming and cattle ranching, Trump has screwed them so bad, we are expected to lose almost $40 billion in agriculture alone, and that's just for 2025. A lot of these other countries have already moved on to Brazil, Argentina, other countries. They're going to be buying from them. They already have contracts for years. Yes, cattle ranchers and farmers voted for Trump 3 times. A lot of them will tell you they vote for him again. We're getting some really hard lessons here for Trump supporters. Do you agree?
Hard lessons. Expensive lessons. Completely avoidable lessons. This education was free before any votes were cast. Economists explaining tariff mechanics. Analysts predicting retaliation. all dismissed as biased, as fake news. Now it's happening, and the response is shock. But this is exactly what was promised. It's just not working the way anyone imagined, and many farmers still defend it, still say they'd make the same choice. Because admitting error means admitting they destroyed their own livelihood for nothing. Markets don't negotiate based on loyalty. China doesn't care about your identity, they care about business. And business is ruthless. When you're told lower your prices or we'll import from elsewhere, that's not partnership, that's threat. Your own government using you as leverage while funding your competitors. And the anger isn't directed at the system, it's directed sideways, at other countries, at political opponents, never at the people actually making these decisions. That's how you stay losing. That's how corporations profit while farmers go bankrupt.
Can't see all of it on the screenshot, but pause to read. So Trump is out here claiming that the only reason cattle prices are so high is because of the tariffs he's done. And then if U.S. cattle farmers don't want him to try and import beef from Argentina, then they need to just lower their prices. Tell me you don't know how futures markets work. Please, Trump can start. Not only do we have a futures market for things like feeder cattle, live cattle, dairy products, etc., when a farmer goes to sell their livestock at the sale barn or whatever that may be, they are at the mercy of what the Big Four want to do. The Big Four being Tyson, Cargill, JBS USA, and National Beef. We have a monopoly in the meatpacking industry that consistently violates antitrust laws, right? So if you want to come out and tell some of your best supporters that you, quote unquote, love to just lower their prices, maybe you should understand their market better, because that's not how it works.
We haven't heard a word from this president or the agriculture secretary. We haven't had a FaceTime meeting. You know, generally when these administrations come in, they invite agricultural leaders for a meet and greet and tell you about what the next 4 years is going to look like policy-wise. That has not happened. And you know what's alarming to me is that this president gave away $40 billion to Argentina to help Argentina farmers and soybean producers there and beef cattle producers there, while we're here at home losing our farms. So you spoke about the $3 billion. That's a very small amount for the farm industry. I hate to say it like that, but we were expecting, a full package that could help America's farmers, and all we are getting is more delays. And yesterday the president said, that his tariffs are great and it's helping America's beef cattle farmers, and we wouldn't be enjoying high prices if it wasn't for him. It's totally opposite, people. I've been out here warning people for a long time that the beef cattle prices were going to rise because we're not producing and not helping America's beef cattle farmers stay on the farm. So we have a lot of problems, and we're yet to hear concrete answers and solutions from this administration.
Notice what's not happening. Notice the absence. No meetings, no communication. No policy briefings. When new administrations come in, agricultural leaders usually get invited. Plans get discussed. This time, complete silence. That silence is the message. When your government doesn't reach out, they don't have good news. When they avoid communication, they don't have answers. Or worse, they have answers, and those answers are, you're on your own. Meanwhile, claims that tariffs are why cattle prices are high, except anyone who understands markets knows that's not how it works. Cattle prices are driven by supply, demand, and corporate control, and farmers can't just lower their prices because they don't set them. The Big Four meat packers do. While farmers wait for support, $40 billion flows to Argentina, not investment that benefits both countries, just financial support to a competitor. How do you explain that to someone in Iowa watching their land go to auction? You can't. So you stay quiet and hope they forget. The lack of response isn't incompetence, it's strategy.
Yeah, I want to jump on the bandwagon of saying that I regret my vote for Trump. My whole family does. My husband and I own a farm in Ohio that was funded through the Inflation Reduction Act, which Biden signed into law. And now the executive orders from Trump are rolling back all of that funding for us. So now we can no longer afford our farm. And when all that happened, it was like a lightning bolt hit my brain. And I realized that I shouldn't just be voting for myself, that Trump's policies and EOs are hurting millions of people. But it took it affecting me personally to understand what I had done was wrong. And I think it's really important for anyone to come out who voted for him and is now negatively impacted by the executive orders, or maybe you have friends or family, especially in minority communities, who are being very heavily impacted by what's going on right now. So yeah, I think it's time for us to stop being so selfish, maybe. And
this right here is what accountability looks like. This farmer voted for policies that ended up destroying the funding that kept their farm alive. The Inflation Reduction Act gave them resources to operate. Now executive orders are rolling it back. Their farm is gone, and they're saying, I was wrong. That takes courage. Most people never get here. They double down, find scapegoats, construct elaborate rationalizations. The key phrase, I shouldn't just be voting for myself. That's the lesson. Politics isn't about immediate personal benefit. It's about the systems you're building, the communities you're shaping, the lives you're affecting. When you vote for tax cuts because you benefit, you're cutting services for people struggling more than you. When you support deregulation that helps your business, you're accepting harm to workers and environments. Eventually, those decisions circle back. Selfishness doesn't create strong communities, it fractures them. This farmer sees it now. They recognize their vote had ripple effects, that minority communities are suffering, that the damage is widespread. To anyone experiencing regret, be honest. Share your story. That's how the cycle breaks, not by defending mistakes, but by owning them.
Farmers don't vote for Trump or for conservatives in general because they're ignorant or because they don't know any better. They do it because they're rich. The GOP and Trump have always promised to cut taxes for the wealthy, to lower or loosen regulations, and to make up any shortfalls by cutting services for other people, for working class people, for lower class people. The median farmer net worth in the United States is over $1 million. That's the median. It's not the average that's jacked up by a few outliers. Like, that is the median. Their incomes are far higher, like the household incomes, far higher than the median household income for people in the United States. Farmers are sophisticated, well-moneyed people who know exactly what they're doing.
We need to talk about something that gets ignored. Not all farmers are struggling family operations. Many are wealthy, really wealthy. The median net worth for American farmers is over $1 million. Not average, median. Half are worth more than that. Their household incomes are significantly above the national median. So when you hear save the farmers, which farmers? The ultra-wealthy operations aren't voting against their interests. They're voting for tax cuts, reduced regulations, policies that protect wealth. That's rational self-interest. The problem is when working-class people in rural areas think they're in the same category, someone making $40K voting identically to someone worth $3 million just because they both live near farmland. You're not the same class. You don't benefit from the same policies. Wealthy farmers will survive. They have reserves, options, financial cushions. It's the actual small operations on thin margins who can't survive a single bad season. Those are the ones getting destroyed. And they keep voting for policies that benefit the wealthy while eliminating safety nets for everyone else. If you're not in that top tier, you're not winning. You're helping them win while you lose.
They vote Republican because they want to keep their tax breaks. They want lower taxes on their income. They want to lower or get rid of the estate tax, like all the taxes that apply to rich people. They did this for purely selfish reasons and knew exactly what they were getting into. And they assumed that those benefits would outweigh whatever chaos Trump created in the markets, with the export markets, tariffs, whatever, and assumed that they would probably get some kind of bailout from that too, which they very likely will. So no, this is not something that can be attributed to ignorance or stupidity. This is malice.
MAGA to the front. It's your turn. You up the bat. All right, now let's chat. So y'all so ungrateful. Y'all so funny, but y'all so ungrateful. Hear me out. Hear me out. Like, don't scroll. Hear me out. So I'm going through my For You page, and I keep seeing all these MAGA Republicans crying about their stamps and stuff. Like, don't cry, Bessie. Don't cry, Bessie. Them stamps gone, baby. You ain't getting them stamps in November, baby. You might not get them in December either, honey. But this is what you voted for. You won. You won. Stop being ungrateful. You won. If I hear one more farmer talking about some soybeans, you won. Ungrateful ass bitches.
A lot of people effed around and now they're finding out. And no group of people is going to find out more quickly than farmers because they're really going to get screwed. With the cutting of this USAID program, they're really going to get hit hard because what was that program, or is that program, that is not being operated as it's supposed to be because of Donald Trump giving complete control of the federal government to the billionaire who bought him, Elon Musk. Anyways, what was the purpose of that? The purpose was to provide humanitarian relief around the world. And a big part of that was providing food to desperate people around the world. And what we did through that program is purchase a lot of agricultural products produced by American farmers and then distribute the...
What do you have to say to U.S. farmers who feel that the deal is benefiting Argentina more than it is them, as they are
Argentina's fighting for its life, young lady. You don't know anything about it.
So question, honestly, for MAGA, what are your thoughts on the Make Argentina Great Again movement? Any input from MAGA here? By the way, all the farmers that voted for Trump, because now soybeans have gone to shit, and now beef is a priority only for Argentina, for the U.S. And I'm really curious, because I've seen like Tommy Lauren and other influential, MAGA shitheads comment on this. I'm curious about other MAGA people. Are you ready to now come back to earth and join the rest of America and, actually solving the problems we have and stop fucking licking the boot?
Let's just start here. The two-party system has failed us. Now there's a 2x speed button right here. You need to hear what I'm about to say, and I need you to repost it, especially if you're on World Talk. No matter how you normally vote, here's what you need to know right now. Americans are paying the price for political games on both sides. Because of the current federal funding freezes, millions of Americans are about to lose their food stamp SNAP benefits in less than 2 weeks. And WIC. These programs put food on the table for families that need it. Food banks across the country are already bracing for shortages, but everybody who works in nonprofit knows that we just don't have enough. Rural communities and working class families are the ones that are going to get hit the hardest. Meanwhile, our government just approved a $20 billion bailout for Argentina. This is what you need to know about that. And it could even be more than 20 billion, but they're starting there. Argentina is one of our biggest global competitors when it comes to agriculture, especially soybeans and beef. So while U.S. farmers, American farmers, are having to declare bankruptcy and rural suicide rates have increased drastically this year, and American families can't afford groceries, our tax dollars are being used to bail out another country's system who is literally a competitor to our country's farming economy. That is not compassion. That is misplaced priorities. I live in Arkansas, where family farms aren't just businesses. They're legacies. Generations have been able to work that same land. And right now, those legacies, they're disappearing. Tariffs, rising costs, and unstable markets are crushing them. Families are losing their homes, and they're losing hope. And yet our leaders are sending billions of dollars in foreign aid to other countries while cutting off lifelines here at home. I run a nonprofit. I work hard. I pay taxes. A lot of people are saying, why don't the Democrats just vote for this budget so we can get off the federal funding freeze? I'm going to tell you why. Right now, I, like a lot of other nonprofits and small business owners, have to get health insurance through the marketplace. If the current federal budget passes as it is written, millions upon millions of lower and upper middle class families could lose access to health care altogether in terms of coverage. Unaffordable, inaccessible. I already pay over $600 a month just for me and 2 kids that are still on my insurance. And here's what's really important to understand. The House, the Senate, and the presidency is all being ran by the same party. The gridlock is not because of the other side. It's because our system has become more focused on political wins than its own citizens' lives. And while I will always believe in global partnership and humanitarian aid, but you cannot feed the world when your own people are hungry. You cannot bail out your competitors when your own citizens, who are farmers, who are the backbone of this country, are losing everything. You can't talk about making America great again while millions of Americans can't feed their kids, go see their doctor, keep their homes, keep their farms. You got to take care of home first. That's not left. That's not right. That's not radical on either side. That is basic humanity. Please repost this. It needs to be heard.
Now we get to the hardest part, the human cost beyond bankruptcy. Farmer suicides are increasing. Not just financial stress, actual lives being lost. Fourth, fifth generation farmers watching everything their families built disappear. Contracts handed to foreign competitors. Markets collapsed. Futures erased. And 70% of farming communities voted for these policies. That's the complexity. These aren't just victims. These are people who supported the changes destroying them. And that doesn't make it less tragic. It makes it more complicated. You can't say they deserve it when people are dying, but you also can't pretend they had no choice, no warning. And now, $40 billion to Argentina, not to farmers contemplating suicide, to the country that replaced them. How do you rationalize that? You can't. This is why take care of home first makes sense, not as xenophobia, but as basic prioritization. You cannot bail out competitors while your own citizens are in life-threatening crisis. You cannot send billions overseas while American families are losing generational wealth and contemplating ending their lives. These farmers deserve help, not because they voted right, but because they're human beings in desperate crisis.
A gruesome yet stark reality of what this administration has done is playing out in rural America with the increase of suicides among farmers. I can't imagine that, being a fourth or fifth generation farmer, watching this administration hand the contracts that feed my family over to, Argentina. Watching Argentina sell soybeans to China that should have been yours. Watching this administration buy beef from Argentina, completely putting out of business entire factories or potential entire factories, meaning this puts your family out on the street. And now this administration is selling that business to another country. In Iowa, 55% of voters voted for that administration. 55%. The farming communities are way up above 70%. And now they are struggling massively. Their jaws hit the floor when they heard that administration was giving away their soybean contracts. And then when they heard that $40 billion of your tax money was going to Argentina, instead of helping to bail out these farmers who are on the brink of suicide. Very briefly read this article with me, okay? Just the very beginning part. When PT announced a $20 billion bailout for Argentina this month, Larry Ori, 86, a farmer in Earlham, Iowa, could hardly believe it, especially after boatloads of Argentinian soybeans began shipping to China, one critical customer for Mr. Ori's family. For Iowans, losing China's soybean market in the president's trade war was only one of many economic shocks that have hit the state since the start of DT's second term. The cost of tractors and fertilizers have shot up with his tariffs. Labor has grown scarcer, and agribusiness major manufacturers have laid off workers. Even the ubiquitous wind turbines that provide income for some Iowa farmers are in the president's sights. Right now, we're fighting different economic wars all at once. What I mean to tell you by all of this, friends, is that I don't care how much money you have, how rich you are. If you are not a millionaire or a billionaire, you will suffer. We're all fucked if we all don't stand up and stop this administration.
If you are a Trump supporter and you are not understanding why the Argentina deal is such a big deal to so many people, watch this next clip. I have not spoken publicly on the matter surrounding my husband's family farm because I wasn't sure I had the right words to adequately explain what's going on through our minds. For those of you who don't know, we've had and operated a grass-fed and finished beef farm in Oxford, Mississippi for over a decade. We've also pasture-raised eggs. Though Berkeley and I don't work on the farm daily, I can assure you I've washed my fair share of eggs and my husband has tended to cattle and chickens even on Christmas. As you can see from the photos, it is a labor of love and something we're truly passionate about. It means the world to my husband and especially to our son. About 2 months ago, it was brought to our attention that a local developer wanted to rezone land that is currently A1 agriculture to I2 heavy industrial to put an asphalt plant directly across the road from where our farm operates. Aside from the obvious reasons of noise and smell and looks, this creates a major issue for our operation. You see, Faulkner Farms is a regenerative agriculture farm, and we don't raise our animals the way a traditional farmer does. We don't necessarily grow cows, though we do. We focus on growing grass. We focus on the health of our soil and how to produce the absolute best grass for our animals to thrive. Aside from the blood, sweat, and tears that we have poured into this farm, years of science-backed education, trial and error, and regenerative practices have gone into our operation to make it is what you see today. The reason this asphalt plant is such a huge ordeal is that it directly affects our operation. People come from miles around to purchase our beef and eggs and will no longer be able to sell products if the ground in the area becomes contaminated with chemicals and debris from the asphalt plant. In addition, the proposed site is in the middle of a verified flood zone. Unfortunately, there's no way to prevent the contamination and would put us out of business. At about 6, I'm going to skip forward. The final decision of rezoning will happen Monday, November 3rd. I ask that you pray for our family and that if you know these supervisors, reach out to them and let us know that you stand with our family in Tylertown, Mississippi. I can't tell you how it feels to know if your entire future is in the hands of 5 men. She goes on to say how horrible this is. Please share this post so that we can get as many eyes on the issue as possible. They have 2 weeks to make sure that this doesn't pass. They can use all the help that they can get. And here's the photos.
All right, so I know this guy has ill intentions by this comment just because his profile picture is some like baby picture of Trump or something silly like that. But I will answer the question. He's asking how I feel about Trump importing beef from other countries. So my opinion on that is I don't agree with it because if we have enough product in the United States, I feel that the United States product should fill the shelves first before we import anything. But I also understand from his point of view, he ran on trying to lower grocery prices. Everybody's crying about grocery prices. The only way to lower beef prices in the store is to import beef from another country because cattle prices in the United States are so high. So is it going to hurt me as a cattle producer? Yes, it will. Do I agree with him importing it? No, I do not. So what I would like to see is I'd like to see the USDA require a label on every package of beef telling you that country of origin where that beef came from. If it's beef from the United States, you say made in USA. If it's beef from Brazil, made in Brazil. If it's beef from Argentina, made in Argentina. Whatever the case is, and let the consumer decide if it's worth saving $1 to sell out the American producers to buy beef from another country. Let the consumer decide what they want to do. That's what I would like to see, and all it would take is a label saying where that beef came from. I would also like to add that if the market does drop a few dollars and you freak out about it and you think that you're losing money, if you're losing money by the market dropping a few dollars, then you're in the wrong business. Because if you're not making money as a cattle producer right now, then you're not going to be making money 5 years from now. We all know that this high market is not here to stay forever, and I don't think it would be too terrible if the market would drop just a little bit to keep the demand there. I don't want the prices to get so high that people aren't buying beef anymore. So I'd like to have that happy medium of producers making money, consumers being happy, and we all work together just to keep the American rancher in business.
Everybody's wound up today because Trump says we're going to import all this beef from Argentina. We're going to lower our beef prices because the beef's too expensive here. And I thought I'd throw my 2 cents in. First of all, it's not really a new thing to import beef. We've imported beef in this country for a long time. What is new, however, is the government getting involved because of the prices and saying the beef prices are too high. We're going to make a deal. We're going to buy a bunch of beef from Argentina and we're going to undercut the American farmers and ranchers who are finally making some decent money. And that's just, it's a socialist mindset, if you ask me. That's not what I've grown up thinking as an American market, supply.
Final point. This rancher understands the nuance. Importing beef isn't new. America has done it for decades. But what's changed is government intervention. This isn't market forces. This is government deciding domestic cattle prices are too high. and deliberately undercutting American producers with foreign imports. That's where it shifts from capitalism to government interference. The irony? People who built identities around opposing government intervention are now experiencing it directed at them, and they're realizing it's bad when it hurts you personally. Where was this awareness when other industries collapsed? When manufacturing left? When service workers couldn't afford rent? His proposed solution, country of origin labeling, is reasonable. Let consumers choose whether to support American ranchers. Reality? Most consumers choose whatever costs less. If Argentine beef is $2 cheaper, that's what gets purchased. So labeling helps, but won't save the industry. Because when your competitor receives billions in subsidies while you're being undercut by policy, you're not competing fairly. That's the real issue. American ranchers expected to survive without support, while foreign competitors get massive assistance. That's not competition. That's systematic disadvantage under an America First platform.